How do you estimate the cost for a concrete pad? Well, let's take a look at this. So, common uses for concrete. And whenever you see this little pencil mark here, it's going to give you a tip that you should note this down. Common uses for concrete then: foundations, footings, driveways, sidewalks, floors, retaining walls, piers, and columns. So, please make a note of that. This right here is a little image of a garage floor, and you can see that there's rebar inside here, this little grid of rebar here, that's reinforcing bar. This is a house that actually I built. This is my house up in Alaska. Reinforcing bar, well, what is reinforcing bar? Concrete has high compression strength, yet poor tensile strength. Tensile is pulling apart. So rebar is added to increase the tensile strength. That's why we put it in here. So make sure you note that. Rebar is also used to pin one structural element to an adjacent element. So if you want to connect like the footing to the foundation wall, you'll put a piece of rebar into the footing. And then when you build the foundational wall on top of this, then they're connected because the rebar is connecting all of them. So anytime you want to connect pieces, you use rebar. So we're not going to jot this one down. Let me explain this to you. How much will the concrete cost? Well, it is sold by volume and measured in cubic yards. We oftentimes just call this yards, not cubic yards, because we don't like to say cubic over and over and over. So that is yards to the third or cubic yards. So what would the volume of this concrete pad be? Well, if you had a pad size that was 16 feet by 18 feet and 4 inches thick, then you would convert everything to feet. So I put a little pencil mark here. You can pause this if you need to. Just showing you how to calculate this. We want to convert everything to feet. 4 inches is 0.333 feet. We multiply them all together, you get 96 cubic feet. If you want to convert cubic feet to cubic yards, here's a conversion factor, which essentially means you divide by 27, but I would rather you do it a little bit differently. I'm going to open up a new tab. If we have a number in our assignment here that says 96 cubic feet, please use your tools. I'm going to type up here 96 cubic feet to cubic yards, and I'm not going to hit the enter key. And as I finish typing, you can see it gives me the answer right here. Please use your search bar as a great unit converter for you. So 3.55 cubic yards, we have to round up, and it's not really rounding, but we have to always go up to the next half yard because you can't be short. 3.5 would be too small, and concrete is sold by the truck in the half yard. So that's going to be 4 cubic yards. So as we said, it's sold by the half yard. Make a note of that. And then how we actually calculate this, pretty simple. How many cubic yards times the number of yards equals the cost. So if you're going to estimate the cost of a concrete pad, this is what you're going to have to do for your assignment. Let's say we have a pad that's 18 feet by 16 feet. Well, we have to place the rebar on a 2-foot grid, and it is sold in 10 or 20-foot lengths. 20-foot lengths are really difficult, though, because it's hard to transport them. You need a really long trailer. 10-foot lengths are a lot easier to move around. So unless you're doing a really large project, you as a homeowner are probably, with a pad like this for a shed, you might just buy 10-foot sticks and then you stitch them together. So they have to be overlapped 2 feet. So this 2-foot overlap is a really important piece. And we maintain a 3-inch edge distance. That's just to make sure it doesn't stick out the edge. So we don't really need to use that in our calculation. But if you're building it, just something to keep in mind. You don't want to put it all the way to the edge where the wooden forms are that kind of hold this concrete in place. You build a little wooden wall around it, and then you pour the concrete in there. You don't want to jam the rebar up against there. Give it a 3-inch edge distance. So this 2-foot lap right here, if we're going to calculate this, we need to figure out how many 10-foot pieces will be in this concrete pad if you overlap a 2-foot pattern. So if we go vertically, so we're going to do this in vertical columns here, straight up and down, and horizontal rows going this way. So vertically, 18 feet means you need 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you can see that first red bar there. So we need one full length one, and then we need a 2-foot overlap. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Conveniently, 18 feet is 2 10-foot sections because we have a 2-foot overlap. So for every vertical column, we need 2. So I see 2, 4, 6, and so on. I actually want you to calculate this. But horizontally, we are only going 16 feet. So our first stick takes us to here. That's 10 feet. And the next one is 8 feet here. So we have a little bit extra. We can cut that extra off. We only need a 2-foot overlap. Truthfully, if you only have a 2-foot overlap and you have 2 foot remaining, you could just ooch it over and have a 4-foot overlap rather than just wasting 2 feet. But the bottom line is we need 2 to go here. Now, if we had enough left over here that we could use it in the next row, that would be really nice because then that could save us some money. But we don't. We only have 2 foot left over on this. So count how many rows you get. Please pause this right now. 3, 2, 1. Pause and calculate how many you need. Did you pause it? Let's see what you got. So your final answer, if we take a look at horizontal, you should have 10 rows. So that means 10 10-foot bars and 10 8-foot bars going this way, and with a 2-foot remainder that we kind of cut off. Gives me 20 foot horizontally, and then 10 little 2-foot scrap pieces that are all these edges over here. Vertically, we have 18 total because we have 9 columns. So that gives us 18 because we have to have 2 in each column. So that gives us a total of 20 horizontally, 10 vertically, 38 total. So hopefully that's what you got. You're going to do this again on your assignment. That would be what the layout would look like when you do this. Again, if you cut that last 2 feet off over here. So what if the cost of the rebar is $6.10 per stick? Well, we multiply it by 38. We get our cost. Concrete, if we had 4 cubic yards from the previous problem that we solved, we get $500 there. Total is $731. Now, there are other costs. You're going to have to put the wooden sort of border frame around here. You have to buy that wood. You usually have gravel underneath here. There's labor unless you're doing it yourself. So there are a few other costs, but these are going to be sort of your biggest costs. So last thing, and this is the one that I want you to, you see the little pencil here. So hopefully you've been noting those other things down that are pencils. What is a cost estimate? This is just a cost of the project, but what I want you to really note down is that this is prepared during the bid phase. So you have your design, you draw it all out, then you make your construction documents that are really detailed. The bid phase is when you actually do the cost estimate. So please note that down, that the bid phase is actually prepared last after you've done all the designs. And this includes costs and profits and all those kind of things. Some people use cost estimating software, but just note that all these other things have to be done before we actually prepare this. So what is a cost estimator? We don't need to note this down, but let me just tell you this. A person might be hired to be able to do this, and their sole job is just to give the cost. They specialize in developing costs. They're employed most often in construction industry because you might have a large multi-million-dollar project that has lots of individual pieces. So you have to figure out what is the total cost for the project, and then you have to submit that to people who want the work done. And they will take 3 bids, usually if it's a government job, and then choose one. Oftentimes that's the least expensive. But if you're the bidder, you don't want to underbid because then you're not going to make money. So it is something that if you have a lot of experience, then you can be really helpful to the industry. You only get that experience if you've been in it for a while. So that's all we got for this one. Now it's time for the assignment.